Tell me you betrayed me, and I swear love will not save you. The gala hall glittered under crystal chandeliers, a river of champagne and silk stretching to the polished floors. Laughter echoed, clinking glasses punctuating the music like deliberate signals. Everyone thought they were celebrating a union. She knew differently. She moved through the crowd like a shadow, every gesture measured, every smile a weapon. The bride's lips curved into the perfect arc, her eyes calculating. Tonight, she wasn't just a wife. Tonight, she was danger disguised as elegance. The groom approached, radiant, certain of the world's adoration. Cameras flashed, capturing his victory and her perfection. She let herself meet his lips in the ceremonial kiss. Polite applause swelled. No one noticed the subtle motion of her hand, slipping a tiny envelope into the rival politician's palm across the room. The envelope, nearly invisible, held the weight of empires. Inside, evidence that could topple dynasties. The rival's eyes flicked up briefly, catching hers, and in that fraction of a second, a silent understanding passed between them. The gala, with all its pomp and applause, was no longer a celebration. It was a battlefield. The rival concealed it beneath his jacket and gave the smallest smirk, invisible to the crowd. She straightened, porcelain perfect, lifting her champagne flute as a toast, innocent to anyone watching, deliberate to him. She was feeding both sides now, moving carefully on a knife's edge. Every heartbeat was calculated, every glance a weapon. Then her phone buzzed. Expecting a routine notification, she froze when the screen illuminated a photograph. Her hand, the envelope, the secret exchange, captured in stark detail. And beneath it, one line, like a whip across her chest. I know your game. The ballroom seemed to blur. Panic threatened, but she swallowed it. Someone had seen everything. Not just seen, but understood. She moved with deliberate grace, weaving through the guests, her mask unbroken. Each step measured, each smile a shield. She could feel the shift. The room had become a chessboard, and she was both queen and pawn all at once. The clock struck midnight, slicing the music with precision. The orchestra swelled, oblivious to the silent war threading beneath their tunes. She slipped behind a velvet curtain, peering out, mapping the rival's movement. He carried the envelope safely, but the photograph had changed the game. Now there was another unknown player, one who knew enough to disrupt everything. A second buzz, another cryptic message, coordinates or perhaps a time. Ambiguous, threatening, but she smiled faintly. Ambiguity was a weapon, and she would wield it. Strings swell, tense but elegant. Returning to the ballroom, she caught the groom's gaze. He didn't suspect, didn't understand. The secret exchange, the surveillance, the unknown observer, all invisible to him. Knowledge was her edge, and she sharpened it like a blade, measured, poised. The rival politician gave a subtle nod, acknowledgement without words. She returned it, a ghost of smile crossing her lips. Then an imperceptible gesture, unnoticed by the crowd, warning him. She knew more than anyone, and anyone underestimating her would pay. Pulse of low drums, crowd chatter. The gala surged, a river of elegance hiding danger. She navigated it like a shadow. Every laugh, every whispered compliment, every glance fed her calculation. She was no longer merely present. She was the pulse beneath the celebration. The storm threading through golden halls. Phone buzz cue again.
Another vibration, another image on her phone, another line. Whisper, sharp. Next move is yours. Voice firm, confident. Her pulse didn't quicken. She felt exhilaration instead. Fear and power fused, giving her clarity. She was no longer the bride, she was the storm. And everyone, rival, groom, unknown observer, would feel its impact. Music steadies, quiet intensity. She sipped champagne, porcelain calm, moving among the guests. Each step reinforced her control. No one suspected her hand in the chaos. The room remained a stage, but she directed the play now. Envelope sliding sound. Then came the subtle knock of an envelope sliding across the polished floor, unnoticed by the orchestra, unnoticed by the guests. She bent, gloved hand lifting it, a second weapon. Inside, intelligence about another move, another threat. The game was no longer just observation. It had become active, deadly. Shift to the outdoor ambiance. She stepped onto the balcony, the city lights flickering below like scattered stars. From here, she was untouchable. She imagined the rival, the groom, the unseen watcher, all pieces in her orchestration. Each misstep they made would feed her power. Each secret, each fear, each miscalculation, her advantage.
Her phone buzzed again. Another alert, a message this time with a photo of a security camera, angle she hadn't accounted for. Someone else was tracking her. A thrill ran through her, a delicious, intoxicating tension. She was being hunted, yes, but hunting in return. The rival politician, safely exiting the hall, gave a subtle nod from the shadows. She returned it, silent promise unspoken but understood. Then she texted back one word, observed. Back inside, the groom approached, eyes warm, expecting intimacy, oblivious to the chessboard unfolding. She allowed herself a smile, perfect, flawless. Every gesture carefully curated. She whispered words meant for performance, not truth. "Beautiful night," she said, voice soft, sweet. But inside, she plotted, calculating the next move. The photograph, the messages, the rival's ignorance, they were all threads she could pull. And she would. As the gala reached its peak, the orchestra swelled, applause erupted, and she moved through the crowd, calm, poised, untouchable. The storm she carried was invisible to all but the few who mattered. She was no longer a pawn. She was queen. The ballroom, the rival, the groom, they were all beneath her gaze. Her phone buzzed again, a live feed this time. The photograph revealed the unknown observer, a shadowy figure in the back of the room, watching, calculating, a new threat, but also a new player she could manipulate. Her lips curved, darkly confident. Next move is mine. And in that instant, the bride of the year became something else entirely. Dangerous, ruthless, unseen, in control. The game had shifted, and she had already taken the first lethal step. The next day, the smear began with a whisper. By morning, it had become a headline. By noon, it was wildfire. Alpha Heir's bride linked to political leaks. Insider feeding rival campaign. The perfect marriage cracking from within. Screens blazed with her name, her image, her carefully staged smile. Every network dissected her past, twisting charity dinners into cover-ups, turning photographs into evidence. She watched from the grand dining room as the storm gathered, each headline slicing at her like invisible blades. Across the table, the groom's father slammed a newspaper down so hard that the silver rattled. "This is not rumor. This is war."
The groom, pale with fury, didn't speak. He hadn't looked at her once since the story broke. His jaw was locked, his hands rigid on the table. Silence wrapped around him like a shroud, and she could feel it. He was calculating, turning every headline into suspicion. "Father," he began, but the old man cut him off. "No, this is on her. The rival is using her words, her knowledge. Who else could it be?" Her pulse held steady. She refused to flinch. Convenient that the rival gains power just when your empire begins to falter. The room froze. Even the clink of a servant's spoon seemed to stop in mid-air. "Careful, girl. You are one scandal away from exile. Exile is for those who have nothing left. I am far from empty-handed." The words hung between them like a blade. That afternoon, the campaign offices went into overdrive. Leaks, files, photographs, everything she had ever touched was dragged out, dissected, spun into damning narratives. Her phone buzzed endlessly, with reporters, allies, even friends turned interrogators. She ignored them all. But what she couldn't ignore was the shifting silence of the Alpha Mansion. Servants avoided her gaze. Her husband's cousins whispered in corners, glancing her way. Every hallway seemed tighter, every shadow deeper, as though the house itself had turned against her. By evening, the smear had grown teeth. The rival's campaign released a speech dripping with evidence, half-truths, twisted timelines, selective quotes. Every sentence painted her as the traitor within, the bride who sold out her husband's kingdom for power. Crowds gathered outside the estate gates, chanting, demanding answers. The Alpha name was bleeding. That night, the confrontation came. She was in the study, back straight, eyes scanning through documents that might prove her innocence or sharpen her guilt. The heavy door swung open, slamming against the wall. Her groom stood there, eyes burning, face tight with rage and hurt. His voice trembled as he spoke, not from weakness, but from the sheer force of what he held back. "Tell me the truth."
She closed the folder deliberately, as though he were just another disturbance. "The truth has never been what you wanted to hear." Footsteps quick, heavy. He strode across the room, fists clenched, until he stood over her. His voice cracked, breaking through the silence like glass. "They say you leaked everything, that you handed them the weapons to destroy us." Her lips curved into a cold smile. "And you believed them?" His hand slammed the desk, papers scattered like frightened birds. "I believe what I see, and what I see is this family falling apart from the inside." For the first time, she let her mask slip, just slightly, enough for him to see the steel beneath the calm. "Falling apart because your enemies are smarter than you. Not because of me." His breath came ragged. He leaned close, so close she could feel the fury in him trembling against her skin. His words were low, sharp, shaking. "Tell me you betrayed me. And I swear, love will not save you." Her heart gave one traitorous flutter, not of guilt, but of recognition. For in his voice she heard not just accusation, but something darker, a promise. A man teetering between passion and ruin. She met his gaze, steady, fearless. Then ask yourself, what if betrayal is the only thing keeping us alive? The silence that followed was unbearable, stretched tight as wire, ready to snap. And then her phone buzzed. Both their eyes dropped to the screen. An anonymous number. A single message. "I know who the real leak is, and it isn't her." The screen went black. The groom's breath hitched. His fury flickered with doubt. She only smiled. The kingdom was collapsing. Yes, but not on her. Secrets have a weight. Some sink you, others can drown empires. She held one now,
sharp enough to cut through bloodlines. The proof was buried in a folder, its pages crisp and merciless. A photograph, bank transfers, birth records, the groom's name tied to a child no one was supposed to know existed, a child born out of wedlock, shielded by money, hidden in silence. And tonight, she would play that card.
The Alpha Mansion glowed with tension. Security roamed the halls, servants whispered in corners, and the family convened in the Great Hall, each face carved with suspicion. The smear campaign still burned, the rival pressing harder every day. And yet, she walked into the room as if she were the one holding court. All eyes turned. Her groom's gaze cut through her like fire, his jaw set in distrust. The patriarch sat high in his chair, his cane tapping against marble like a clock counting down to her execution. She placed the folder on the table, slowly, deliberately. "This," she said, her voice even, "is the truth none of you dared face." The groom's father leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What trick is this?" She flipped the folder open. The photograph slid out like a blade unsheathed. A boy's face, familiar eyes, the alpha blood unmistakable. Her groom froze, his hands curled into fists, then unclenched. Rage, shame, fear. He had no words, only silence, louder than any denial. The room erupted, cousins whispering, uncles murmuring. The patriarch's cane slammed against the floor. "Enough!" His voice silenced them all. He turned his gaze to his son. "Is it true?" The groom's lips parted, but no words came. He looked at her instead, fury and desperation warring in his eyes. She answered for him. Yes. The revelation didn't just fracture the family's image, it threatened to collapse the dynasty itself. And then she spoke again. Softer. Sharper. "I don't hand it to the press, I hand it to both." The patriarch's eyes burned, but beneath them, a flicker of something else. Admiration. She wasn't begging for survival. She was dictating the terms. Her husband finally found his voice, hoarse and trembling. "You destroy us all?" She leaned closer, her whisper slicing into him. "If I go down, you all burn with me." No one moved. No one breathed. For the first time, the Alpha family wasn't in control. She was. But outside, the storm was only beginning. News feeds speculated wildly, rumors tangled with lies, and somewhere in the chaos, someone moved unseen. Mechanical clicks, metallic drip of poison. The rival politician's motorcade gleamed under city lights. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed. He stepped into his car with the arrogance of a man untouchable. A hand brushed metal. A vial tilted. Poison bled into the brake fluid. Invisible, silent, merciless. The car door slammed shut. The rival smiled for the cameras. The motorcade rolled into the night. And with every mile, his fate tightened. Tragedy on the highway. Political rival dead in crash. Brake failure suspected. Sabotage not ruled out. She stood on the balcony again, wineglass trembling slightly in her hand, not from guilt, but from the recognition that her game had shifted without her consent. Because the whispers were already starting. She had motive. She had threatened both sides. She was the one who would gain. By dawn, the papers no longer called it tragedy. They called it murder. And the bride,
The queen who had just claimed the board was painted as the hand that poisoned the rival's car. Her phone lit up. A message. Your move ended the game, but someone else is writing the rules now. She froze, just for a second. A shadow moved across the courtyard below, unseen by the guards, gone before she could focus. Her husband burst into the room, eyes wild. They're saying it was you, that you killed him. She turned slowly, her calm unbroken, but her heart thudded once, hard against her ribs. And do you believe them? His silence was louder than an answer. She smiled faintly, masking the tremor that ran through her chest. Then it seems the Queen's Gambit has worked. But in the glass reflection behind her, she saw it. The shadow again. Watching. Waiting.
The city woke to tragedy dressed as scandal. Headlines screamed of recklessness, of corruption finally catching up to a man who had thought himself untouchable. The rival was dead, his reputation drowned in whispers of fraud, illicit deals, and secret affairs. No one spoke of poisoned breaks. No one dared. Because the narrative was already written, and the Alpha family controlled the pen. She watched from the balcony as dawn's pale light brushed her face. To the world, it was justice. To her, it was execution dressed as fate, and she knew exactly whose hand had arranged it. The great hall of the Alpha mansion pulsed with tension. At the center sat the patriarch, his cane across his knees, expression colder than marble. She entered slowly, deliberately. The patriarch's eyes followed her, sharp and unyielding. Her groom stood pale with the weight of accusation, though no words had been spoken aloud. The family had already chosen silence over scandal. The old man broke it with a voice low, heavy, inevitable. You belong to this name now, forever. The words struck harder than any chain, but chains could be turned into weapons if you knew how to wield them. That night, she slipped into the patriarch's study. On the desk, a ledger of erased names, and beside it, the recorder she had hidden earlier, blinking red. The door opened, the patriarch entered, muttering to himself. Fool thought he could threaten this family, thought he could use her against us. Now he's nothing but a headline. We erase our enemies. We erase their names. And if she ever forgets that, we erase her too. Click. The recorder caught every word. She stepped from the shadows. You've buried many men, haven't you? For a fraction of a second, surprise flickered in his eyes. Then it vanished. You're braver than I thought. But wisdom is not bravery. She smiled faintly. No, wisdom is knowing when to let a man condemn himself. His eyes fell to the blinking red light. He understood. Too late. By morning, she was gone. In a quiet cafe, she sealed the recording into an envelope. Not to the press, not the police. A third party, unknown, dangerous. Her lips curved into a faint smile. The game was no longer theirs, it was hers. That night, the patriarch stood on his balcony, gazing over the city he believed he owned. Somewhere in its depths, his fate was already unraveling. Each word he had spoken, now a blade poised against his throat. And she
She watched from a distance, her reflection caught in the glass of a passing car window, her eyes steady, her whisper meant for no one but herself. The family name must be protected, but by whose hands? That's the secret no one sees coming.